The other day, I had a conversation with an old friend who was updating me on his job search after college. He was deciding between two FAANG offers and weighing out the culture, the benefits, and the compensation of each. When he asked for my take on which I would choose if I were in his shoes, he prefaced the question by asking me how much I was paid 4 years ago when I just graduated. When I told him my total compensation, or TC for short, was less than half of his base salary, he felt bad, almost embarrassed, and seemed like he pitied me. The truth is, most people aren't in FAANG. Yeah, shocker, right? When you think of people in tech, you think of people in Patagonia vests, getting Phil's coffee on the weekend, or they're hitting up their local rock climbing gym, which was reimbursed by their company's wellness program. What about non-FAANG people? Where's our company merch? Where's our six-figure salary, and where are the kombucha machines? I remember back in college when I took an unpaid internship at a startup after getting rejected by FAANG. They told me I would be getting invaluable experience, which to them is more important than money, supposedly. Then I would come back and hear my friends talk about how they made the equivalent of six figures working as summer interns, not doing shit. Most of the salaries I see are also pretty inflated, which makes sense. People are only comfortable talking about their salaries when they don't have a reason to be embarrassed. You see it on Glassdoor, CS Career Questions, Levels, Blind, and even YouTube. We don't ever hear about the underdogs that work for those companies that always claim like they're the top 100 places to work for on LinkedIn. In the field of software engineering and in general, it can actually hurt to not know how much your peers are paid. As someone who's exclusively worked in non-FAANG companies, I'll give you a 3-year progression of how much I made at each role and my experience coming in and out. But before that, let's explain total compensation. In tech, total compensation, or TC for short, is mainly composed of 3 main parts: salary, stock, and bonuses. We typically don't include benefits like 401k matching, health plan, or those snazzy kombucha machine privileges. Salary is what we're familiar with. This is the amount that you're paid annually. Some of us are paid an equivalent wage, which is common if you're a contractor or a consultant. This can be a monthly, bi-weekly, or most commonly an hourly figure. The second component is stock. This tends to be the most complicated part of total compensation. Let's break it down. First of all, what is a stock? A stock, or share, is a slice of a company that represents ownership or equity. Stocks are sold by the company to the people like you and me to raise money in return for equity, or for your ownership. You can earn stock in a couple different ways, like an employee stock purchase program or employee stock options. Oftentimes, companies award stock in the form of RSUs or restricted stock units to incentivize you to stay longer and do better work. They're restricted from your access until you stay long enough to actually receive them. Lastly, some are paid a bonus. You can expect to find a signing bonus for when you get the job, a performance bonus for when you do well, and a retention bonus for when you stay longer. There are, however, a couple gotchas that you have to keep in mind, and typically these bonuses require you to stay a certain amount of time. In June of 2018, I landed my first software engineer position right out of college. It was a short 1-month contract at a startup in San Francisco, just months after I had graduated in May. I received a $3,000 check, which when extrapolated to a yearly salary, would have been around $36,000. Coming into this, I had a 2-month internship under my belt at a startup and some research experience from school. I had average grades and couldn't even reverse a linked list. My interview was project-based, thankfully. I knew I didn't like front-end development, but I was desperate to find any job, and so I learned React and Redux, just enough to be competent for the interview. I got the offer, and like a lot of college grads, I took my first and only offer after being rejected so many times. I confirmed that I did not like front-end development because I felt like I was too visually creative, and I was really bad at centering divs. The idea of working in a Silicon Valley startup with other brilliant 20-year-olds is pretty dope, but ultimately I still felt uninterested and bored. However, it was a good way to learn what I didn't like early on in my career. Ultimately, since my daily commute was around 3 hours and everything was pretty expensive, especially the avocado toast, I decided to fly back to San Diego. In October of 2018, I landed my second job here in Little Italy in the heart of downtown San Diego. This one landed me a base salary of $55,000. No stocks or bonuses, but this was about a 50% increase from my last job. To prepare, I did around 1 hard, 1 medium, and 20 easy questions on lead code. Also, there are some major life events happening at that time. I had just gone through a breakup, there was some beef between my friend and I just needed a comeback. Probably the biggest shift for me was moving back into my parents' place. I just felt like a kid. I worked on the backend for a new payment system which involved a lot of C# and writing a lot of SQL. It turns out that this place was a huge Ponzi scheme. I mean it in the most literal sense, and nor did any of my coworkers want to be a part of that. I actually ended up leaving the day that I told them, which was sometime in December. I studied for about 1 month before I got a job offer in La Jolla in February of 2019 at a biotech company for a 6-month contract to hire position. I was initially sus at the whole 6 months thing, but I trusted my recruiter and I was eventually hired. This one cashed in at $35 an hour or $72,800 for salary, no stocks or bonuses. It was a 30% increase and was the first work I really enjoyed. It's pretty funny. I remember getting absolutely wrecked and rejected the day of my interview, but the next day, the hiring manager actually opened up another position for me because she said that she liked my personality. This was also my first time negotiating a role. Not that I had a counteroffer or anything, but they gave me 35 after giving me 32 when I had asked for 38. At this role, I felt a little bit of imposter syndrome because I had already worked for 6 months and I already had left 2 jobs and I had no tangible experience yet. Anyways, I worked on data engineering and ETL projects that involved a lot of high availability infrastructure in AWS. I took on some pretty complex projects and learned a lot of Python, Bash, and a high-level understanding of machine learning and bioinformatics. This was also the first time that I got the opportunity to work from home, which is kind of crazy to think about considering that I've been working from home for about 4 years now. 6 months flies by, and by September of 2019, I'm no longer on a contract but a full-time employee with a salary at $80,000. This was about a 10% increase in 6 months. Still no stock or bonuses, but a highlight in December was going to Vancouver to attend a machine learning conference for some research my manager led.
What's up, people? I am in Vancouver right now at the NERPS conference. NERPS, sorry I said that kind of weird. Today is Thursday, December something, like 11th or 12th. And I really have no clue where I'm going right now.
By this time, I felt really confident that I was making more of an impact at my company, which was something that I really valued. I learned a lot about distributed systems, especially in the context of Kubernetes and microservices. Fast forward to January of 2020, the group that I worked in actually ended up getting acquired by a bigger company. I negotiated my base salary to $95,000 after having asked for $115,000. They didn't offer me any RSUs, but rather involvement in a stock purchase program where we could buy stock at a discount at certain parts of the year. Also, if we stayed for a year, we'd be issued a $10,000 retention bonus with another $6,500 performance bonus that I got half of, clocking in my total comp at $108,250. At this point, my years of experience was around 2 years. I ended up staying for another 1.5 years where I would successfully reverse engineer and improve the backend of our workflow system that we inherited without any documentation from our former parent company. I got a lot of hands-on experience with all the major components of AWS. At this point, I was tackling bigger things and leading bigger efforts. The last position I took before I quit my job started in June of 2021, here in Torrey Pines, California. I was mostly a remote worker, but I had the occasional weekly commute. At this role, I was paid $120,000 as a salary, nearly 4,000 RSUs vested over 4 years, and a 12.5% annual bonus, which was around $15,000. A quarter of the stocks vested in the first year, which meant that in the first year, my total compensation was around $235,000. The interview involved some technical system design, leadership questions, and some system admin stuff. At this point, I had 3 years of work experience, 2.5 of which were directly related to cloud architecture. I had more than an 100% increase in total compensation for my last role. I was hired to lead their cloud migration from their on-prem servers to AWS. I designed and scaled their infrastructure by myself, functioning as a system architect, a software team lead, and a developer. There was a lot expected out of me, and I was not prepared to tackle everything. I wanted more mentorship, which is what I was lacking in my previous jobs, and unfortunately, I got put on this role way too soon. I quickly burned out from school and balancing everything going on. That's when I decided to leave that job. Now, as of February of 2022, I make $0 annually. I'm working on a couple things, but they won't produce money instantly. Honestly, I miss the money. Every week, I'll get recruiter emails from FAANG and other cool startups. I've thought of going back to the workforce, and although it may happen this year, I have no intention of going back to the 9-to-5 in the short term. Here's the final graph that shows you my salary over the years. And don't get it twisted, software engineers are still paid very well in comparison to other disciplines. I'm not complaining that we're not paid enough. Well, I just wanted to highlight my experience of working as a non-FAANG engineer so you could have another data point to compare. Before I go, I want to leave you with a couple things that I've learned. Number 1, Your salary should never be tied to your self-worth. Number 2, you don't need to work in FAANG to make a good amount of money. Number 3, growth in your career is oftentimes not linear. For us in tech, a lot of the big jumps happen in the beginning and middle of our careers, versus maybe a business owner who realizes most of the gains later down the road. Number 4, software engineering is a career that normalizes asking for more and more money every time you get a new role. Once you get an offer, don't be afraid to ask for more money. They want you as much as you want them, and the worst they can say is no. Oftentimes, they'll probably just meet you in the middle. Number 5, don't be concerned with staying at a place for a certain amount of time to say you've been there for 1, 2, or 3 years. If you've got a resume with keywords, are smart, and can show it in an interview, you'll land the job. Number 6, your pay depends on a lot of things, like your years of experience, cost of living in your area, your education sometimes, and what your discipline is in, like data science, embedded systems, web dev, or app dev. It's up to us to talk about them and determine whether or not we're underpaid or overpaid. And that just about wraps it up. So as always, guys, thank you for watching. I hope you found this video informative and relatable. Let me know in the comments down below if you have an experience similar to what I had. And I've got a lot of videos planned for you guys, so stay tuned. It's a whole list. Anyways, peace out. Have a good day. Thanks for watching, guys.